Choose one. Yeah.
DC3.
I got all these rabbits twerking. Waves on switch shit surfing. I wanna try nigga around me. That nigga make me nervous. I got all these rabbits twerking. Waves on switch shit surfing. I wanna try nigga around me. Broke nigga make me nervous. There's three type of niggas in life. Niggas that make it happen. Niggas that watch it happen. And niggas that don't even know what the fuck is going
After
on.
this, y'all niggas can call us DreamWorks.
What's going on? Welcome to the second episode of the Infinite Rep Podcast. I'm your host, Trevor Stone. If this is your first time watching, follow us on IG at KillerTrev12 and subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to this channel, Infinite Reps, to become a part of future discussions. So, again, this is the second episode. So the purpose of this podcast, just to reiterate, is to provide an online forum for discussion. It's basically going to be an online book club where we're going to go ahead and unpack ideas with the hopes of combating a lot of the negative programming that's out there. Okay, so the scope of this podcast, again, is going to include business, entrepreneurship, sales, health, general fitness of the mind. Okay, and infinite reps. Here we deal with the infinite expansion of the mind. Okay, so again, this is episode number 2. What we're dealing with today is the leadership playbook. Okay, this is by Jamail. All right, so this book, it's got by this guy named Jamail. It's about creating a culture to win. What's it say? Creating a culture to build winning business teams. Okay, so this guy, he basically goes and he helps companies optimize their businesses by teaching them how to run their businesses like professional sports teams. Okay, and the very first chapter, right? Okay, this is heavy in the business. It's heavy in the sales department, and in leadership, right? So again, this is definitely what we're going to be dealing with a lot in this podcast. But again, we're not limited to these topics. So the very first chapter, he talks about how you have to mandate practice. Okay, and again, he's speaking to Fortune 100 companies. He's speaking to top companies in this country about how to, again, build better teams to make more money, to optimize their businesses. So the number one, really big theme he says throughout the book is that practice must be mandated for everybody, right? He says here on page 46, okay, any skill in business can be improved and developed with practice, okay? Then he talks a little bit and he says professional athletes, they study their routines and plays and practice them 90% of the time. But in business, leaders in their teams practice what they need to do less than 1% of the time, okay? Now, he's going to these different companies and he's observing that this happens in what he calls management cultures. He's trying to teach everybody, or he's trying to teach these businesses how to be coaches, right? So the difference between a coaching culture and a management culture is that in a coaching culture, like professional sports teams, practice is mandated, okay? So he says, professional sports team, think about a football team. What's your favorite football team? They practice 90% of the time, okay? They study playbook, they study routines, and they drill it, okay? But in business, he says, what he observes is that these professional companies, right, the top companies in the country, they practice what they need to do less than 1% of the time, okay? He says this is simply indefensible and it violates the essential coaching principle that everybody must practice. Now, when we say everybody must practice, that includes me, that includes you, because if we're going to think about our lives, basically got to think about our lives as a business, as a company. Even if you have your own business, or you're building your own business, or you're thinking about building your own business, if you're thinking about building anything, the first person, right, that you're going to employ is yourself. So if you think you're going to build any type of team, you have to be the first one that's going to be on the practice field. So everybody must practice. So in this chapter, he actually goes in on our good brother Allen Iverson, okay? and I want to pull up the audio because we talking about practice. You want to sit here and talk to me about practice? He goes in on Allen Iverson a little bit, right? Let me just play the audio real quick so you guys can hear it.
If a coach say I miss practice and y'all hear it, then that's that. I mean, I might have missed one practice this year, but if somebody say he doesn't come to practice, it can be one practice out of all the practices this year. That's enough. If I can't practice, I can't practice, man. If I'm hurt, I'm hurt. I mean, simple as that. It ain't about that. I mean, it's not about that at all.
So, I mean, clearly you guys can see, you can watch the interview for yourself, but when this was kind of circulating, obviously, Allen Iverson, he looked like the bad guy. I was kind of on his side, but I learned that he's wrong in this situation. You have to practice, and you have to. He might have had a good excuse for missing that one practice, but you still have to believe yourself that practice is a big deal, because it is. It's the only thing that matters, right? So he also says here, business people not practicing for game situations are no different from athletes who do not practice. Both are unprepared, okay? So the thing about Allen Iverson is at this point, when he's speaking to these reporters and the people, the media that are asking him questions, he's speaking from a perspective as a master of his craft, okay? He's speaking as one of LeBron said that he's pound for pound the best of all time, right? That's what LeBron James said that, okay? Or he said something to that effect, okay? And you got to realize when you're speaking from that perspective, he's speaking from a level of competence that that maybe could justify missing a practice, right? But you have to understand that just like me and you, Allen Iverson started from the bottom, okay? In his Hall of Fame speech, I watched his Hall of Fame speech the other day, and he talked about how his mom was the one that made him go to basketball practice the first time. And Allen Iverson is a football player, okay? AI is a football player, right? When he was a kid, he was like, oh, I don't want to go to basketball practice. Basketball is soft, okay? So he wasn't even about the basketball life. But on day one, you got to understand, he started at a level of competence, right, that everybody else starts at, you know, when you enter a new field, when you enter a new craft, okay? And what you have to understand about AI is he, at this point, when he's doing this interview, he has practiced so much with so much intensity that he has reached the level of mastery. But that doesn't mean that he couldn't have got better, right? He's a legendary player. He's in the Hall of Fame. He has a bunch of accolades, scoring titles, but he could have been better, right? And I kind of compare him to Kobe, right? Whether you want to say, oh, he played with Shaq, whatever the case may be. Kobe is all about practice. He's all about work, right? And he's always been about that, and he's been congruent with that. And that's what his brand represents. And he actually has 5 rings to show for it, right? So the point that Nathan Jamail makes in this, when he goes in on AI, he's not saying that the AI isn't, he's not trying to disparage, right? This isn't to disparage Allen Iverson. This is to say that even the Allen Iversons of the world can get better with practice, okay? He says any skill in business can be improved and developed with practice, okay? And one thing that really helped me in my sales career, especially when I was first starting off, even now, right, is my manager put me onto this concept of competence, okay? And there's basically 4 levels of competence, okay? The first level of competence, right, at the top here is called unconscious incompetence, okay? So from day one, Allen Iverson, he went to basketball practice the first day. I'm sure he played basketball, right, with his friends. He probably had a general sense of the rules, right? But unconscious incompetence, it means that you don't know what you don't even know, okay? It has to do with the fact that, you know, you enter a new field, right? You don't even know what you need to study because you know nothing about the field. Okay, this was me when I first got into sales. Like when I first got into direct sales, it was my first sales job ever, right? And at that point, you know, you're operating from a space that you don't even know what skills you need to learn in order to get better. So once you kind of figure out what skills you need to learn to get better, right? You move into the second level, which is conscious incompetence. Okay, so both stages 1 and 2, right? You're still incompetent. The goal is to become competent, right? You want to get better, you want to become competent so you can produce results. But the first 2 stages, you are incompetent, right? The first stage, you're unaware that you're incompetent because you don't even know what you don't even know. The second stage, now you have an idea of what you need to learn. Okay, I want to be like that guy. He's successful. Let me do what he does. Okay. The way that you get from any stage to the next stage is you gotta fail over and over. You get your teeth kicked in, right? The L's are gonna rain down for a minute, and eventually you're gonna learn what skills you need to know to get better. Okay. You practice these skills, right? Once you practice these skills, right, you still get your teeth kicked in over and over and over. You practice these skills, you get your teeth kicked in over and over. The degree to which you practice, the degree to which, the intensity to which you practice will probably determine, right, how fast you progress. But don't get it twisted, right? These first 2 levels, even though you're incompetent, right, everybody starts from a level of incompetency, but there are those that are naturally gifted, that are naturally talented. Okay, I'm a person that I'm a very slow learner. It takes me way too long to learn things, right? But at least I'm aware of that. And what that means here is that talented people can still have success, a good amount of success, right, with their natural gifts at these first 2 levels. But to be able to produce results over and over and over again, you have to eventually become competent, right? The way that you become competent is through practice, right? You have to mandate practice for yourself. Okay, that's what Nathan Jamail says. Who gets paid to talk to these companies? He says you have to mandate practice. That's the first chapter of the book, right? So eventually, you're gonna practice. You're gonna fail. You're gonna learn what you need to learn, right? And then you get to the third stage, where at that point you're operating at a place of what's called conscious competence. Okay, now you are actually competent in your field. The difference between conscious competence and the last stage is that when you are consciously competent, this means that you have to actually focus and be conscious of your actions. And if you check off all the boxes and you put in the maximum effort possible, right, that you can possibly give, then you produce results, right? So you have to. This third stage, you can consistently produce results. You can consistently produce results, but it requires all of your attention, all of your concentration, all of your energy, right? And you can maintain that, right? People do maintain that, but where you want to get to is the level of mastery where it's called unconscious competence. Okay, this is where you have practiced so much the skills. For example, when I give my pitch, when I knock on somebody's door and I pitch them, right? I don't need to be looking at my phone to look at my notes. I just know exactly what I'm going to say. I actually know what I'm going to say so much that I can look at their body language. I can observe other things and be thinking totally different words in my mind and still be spouting off the pitch like it's water, right? And this is the level that you want to get to, right? This is the level that masters operate at. And then once you get to the level that you can that you don't have to put in all your energy to be successful, to be competent, you don't have to use all your focus to be competent, then you start to break new mold. That's when you start to set world records, because what happens when you do put all your energy? What happens when you're at this level of unconscious competence where you can produce satisfactory results? What happens when you go ahead and you get motivated to be the best, right? Then you start breaking records. So, right, Allen Iverson, he's definitely in the realm of basketball, unquestionably unconsciously competent. But the way this kind of works is it's like a cycle, right? So you can say, right, when it comes to winning rings, Allen Iverson is right here. You don't even know what you don't even know. Or that's kind of what he you know, when it comes to practice, it seems like he's at the level of unconscious incompetence. Like, you don't even know what you don't even know. And I'm sure, like, I'm reaching there. Like, Allen Iverson knows a lot more about practice than me, right? He's a lot more successful in his field, or has been. He's actually my most favorite player of all time. But I'm just trying to make a point here. When it comes to winning rings, you can say, like, Kobe is somewhere in between here, right? Maybe he has to focus all his effort. When he focuses all his effort and energy, then he can, you know, win rings. But at this point, you know, when you get to start, when you get to like five rings, it's like unconscious competence, right? You're doing it without even having to think about it, right? He doesn't even have to think about. He doesn't even have to think about going to the gym. He's going to the gym. He's going to go practice. So I kind of wanted to tie these two ideas into each other because, again, when my manager put me onto this concept, it really helped me to understand not only where I was at, but where I want to go. In terms of my own level, it's kind of a good way to keep track of your levels of competence or where you're at. And again, the book we're dealing with here is The Leadership Playbook by Nathan Jamail. Okay, and what I want to do is just challenge the audience to try to identify your level of competence in your craft, right? Try to see where you are, right? Or at least think about where you are. If you're at a stage right now where you're thinking about getting into a new field or trying something new, completely new, you know exactly where you're at. You're at a stage of unconscious incompetence, right? Now, it's relatively easy to get from stage 1 to stage 2 because you can literally go YouTube, right? You can click off this video, you can go YouTube all the things that you need to learn. But you can watch all the YouTube videos in the world, but you're gonna have to actually fail a little bit to see what you really need to learn, okay? And apply that to yourself, and then you're gonna reach a stage of conscious incompetence. Now you have a feel of what you actually need to get good at, what actually matters more than other things, right? And is applicable to your situation, because I don't care what YouTube video you watch, it's not going to be specifically applicable to your situation, right? Unless you make the video, right? So again, you move to different stages of competence. First, you don't know what you don't even know. You get your teeth kicked in, and then you figure out, oh, I need to do that, what that guy's doing. Oh, I need to there's a couple books on this. Okay, cool. I'm gonna read all those. I'm gonna practice. I'm gonna fail over and over again. I'm gonna get my teeth kicked in, right? And then eventually, I'm gonna get to a point where if I can persist, I'll eventually get to the point where if I focus all my energy and try my hardest, I will produce results. And then if you want to take it a stage farther and you want to eventually break records and you want to be the best of all time, you're going to have to keep practicing until you reach a stage of unconscious competence where you don't really have to focus all your energy and you can still produce results. And then you're going to have to start focusing all your energy and still doing all the basics. You're still going to have to get in the gym and shoot your foul shots and shoot layups and do all the basic things that you did at level 1. You're still going to have to do those. Take all the knowledge that you have now that you're on level 4, re-motivate yourself, right, with new and bigger goals, right? Maybe the goal at first was just to reach level 2. Now the goal, now that you're at level 4, is to do something that's never done before. So now you got to put all your energy, and this is where innovation happens. This is where you break the mold, okay? But again, the main thing I think that gets us through these stages, I have to agree, is practice, right? What Nathan Jamail says on page 46 is practice. I have to agree with that, okay? So if you do agree, if you don't agree, I really want to hear the people that don't agree with that, so we can have a back and forth. But even whatever thoughts you have, share them down below in the comments. The Instagram is down below. If you want to email book recommendations, we're definitely going to deal with this book again. If you want to email book recommendations, email it to infiniterepsinfo@gmail.com. Okay? And again, like I said, all I know is that I know nothing at all. That's why I read books, right? This is the Infinite Reps podcast. Y'all be easy.